relocated. We had relocated to live in Boston. I became quite excited by the um, the college radio scene here, in particular WZBC Boston College Radio, and so I got involved and got a radio show there, and I was given a piece of paper and a pen and told to write down what I was playing while I was on the radio as a DJ, which seemed ridiculous to me because I could just as easily be typing it into the computer that was right there. And then it could go up on the web and everybody could watch it. So that's how Spintron got started. It's really exactly like that. Then I designed the initial version of the software so that other DJs at the radio station could try it out, and the response was enthusiastic enough. Basically, college radio DJs tend to be egomaniacs, and they're also not all. I mean, it depends how old they are. You know, if they're students, that's one thing. If they're elderly, sort of community volunteers, that's a different thing. But most of them had no problem using a computer. They've learned how to use a web browser, so that's pretty much it. Um, so getting the data into the computer was about the same as getting it onto the piece of paper, and then we had it on the web as well. And that was another way of communicating with the audience, because if you're listening to a radio station that plays maybe a little bit unusual music, then you don't know what you're listening to. So you want to know. If you like it, you want to know. So what's been playing on the radio? That's what Spinatron's all about. So then we got some other stations in actually fairly close by, like BRS Brandeis was the second station to use it, and a bunch of others got into it. And then in 2009 or thereabouts, this was now about 8 years later, I actually stopped trying to look for, after the second layoff and the second dot-com bust that I'd lived through after moving to the USA. I decided, oh, screw it, why don't we just try and make a business out of this? So we did. So just Ava and I made a business out of it. So it's basically a lifestyle business. We make our living from this, and that's just about all we can do. We have employed a software developer for a while, a few years ago, but it's not really that kind of.
Yeah.
What you can do the math yourself. It's not exactly a big revenue we're dealing with here, so we can't employ an army of programmers.
As much as we would like to. Can you guys hear us all right? By the way, just wanted to check if the volume is okay. Yeah, that's the introduction. That's how it started, and and more stations in 2009 were inquiring, and that gave us the idea of we don't have to sit in an office after.
Yes, it's also true that in the meantime, between when Spintron actually began and the whole, a lot of radio stations started off their webcasting before understanding the legal situation of their webcasts, and then only discovered later that they had a reporting requirement. So that kind of worked out to our advantage. So we quickly adapted our software so that we could use the playlist recording that was the primary feature of Spinatron also for compliance reporting to Sound Exchange. So that's another thing. So we kept on adding on little features like that. We got added on a metadata push feature. We've got an API so that if you want to pull stuff out and put it onto your website in your own custom fashion, we can do that. We've added a variety of enhancements to the web integration, so you can do things with iframes or with JavaScript widgets. And a more recent trick is the custom layout, which is another alternative technology, which is quite nice. Okay. So a variety of things like that for web integration. What else? Yes, we've also started doing the archive recording. And I guess another big innovation was the automatic music recognition. where we can configure a system to listen to your webcast and then enter the playlists, enter the spins into the playlists automatically.
Yeah. So that's the end of our presentation. Tom already covered
So,
everything.
any questions?
That's the overview. And what we were thinking about that for those who use Spintron already, it might be just a refresher. Tom,
What?
be quiet. The sound of cork. Anyway.
Good sound. We like
It was easily distracted.
Yes, sorry. So we could cover, unless you would like to hear, everybody would like to hear something else instead. I thought quickly covering the playlist entry form, how to best do it, including importing a playlist maybe, if there is any interest in it. And I think some stations are also interested in the reporting features, be as it sound exchange or BMI or internal report generation. We could cover that, and then some web integration. What tools we offer. If we have I'm not gonna do a lot of details, just generally what is available in Spintron, and then we can open it for questions if that's okay with
And really, even those headings is a lot. So
Yeah.
please speak up or type something into the chat if there's something you want to ask about, if there's a particular area that you feel like you would like a demo of. We're here and paying attention.
Okay, so we have a mixed crowd. Some stations have been using KBSC, has been using Spintron for many years. Some newcomers, or hopefully newcomers, we can help. And on that note, I will try to share my screen. Yes.
That's where we do that. Okay, share screen here, and there's well done.
Yeah.
Good. And so we can go back to that. Oh no, I need to click share still.
Yes.
It's complicated, isn't it?
So
All right.
can everybody see it?
Can you see that picture of a sort of
toucan.
like a toucan? Yeah.
Okay,
good.
great. So that is we logged into our test database in Spintron, and you can see the menus here. If you are not familiar with the admin options, how you can create new playlist, you can set your schedule, you can generate report, you can manage users, and go through the admin settings.
Okay, so I should mention there's a few items down here that you're not familiar with. This is just for me because I'm a super user.
Yeah,
Right?
the
So this is for us to manage
yeah.
manage you guys. But the stuff above this would be available to all admins. The users is only available to admins. If you're an editor user, you can also do some of the tricks in this menu to do with search and chart.
Mm-hmm.
But and the rest of it should be, so not everybody's going to see all these things.
Right. So one of the ways that I find quite easy to start new playlist is click on the schedule, and let's say click on one of your if it's your show, then you can click on it and a new playlist for that show. This is the setup page for the playlist, and if you use the schedule from it, it already fills out the playlist name, the music, the category, the actual proper time slot. The only thing you might need to pay attention to is making sure that the date is correct on that.
All the time.
And so just make sure that things are fine.
So
You
if
can
you're not-
add extra info for description and episode if it's a particularly interesting episode within that series you are producing, then you can get extra information on that. Otherwise, just click submit, and this is roughly the playlist entry form that a lot of stations will get. You can get more fields available from Spintron, and you can also hide fields. That's all in the
We should show
admin.
that. We might as well show it now since you mentioned it.
Okay, we can always
Playlist
come
forms.
back. That's
Playlist forms.
yeah. music fields. So this is the list. It's for admins. You can enable these fields. You can make them required by all DJs, and they cannot submit individual entries in a playlist unless they fill out that field. And you can also make it hideable. So individual DJs, when they create the playlist, they can hide it from their own playlist form. So if a song note is not is of no interest to a particular DJ, they can hide it in their own preferences.
The idea here is that there's a lot of fields that if you take all of the things that different stations want to track, there's a lot of fields. But that's a lot of fields if they're all enabled at once. So if we disable some of them, then the form itself ends up looking simpler. And that's much preferable, right? If we get rid of a whole bunch of stuff, look how much simpler the form looks.
Yeah.
So do you need to track the duration of a song?
If you're doing sound exchange reporting, then you might want to.
If you're doing sound exchange reporting to NPR, then they require that. It's not necessarily required otherwise.
Yeah.
So you could, for example, you could get rid of that, and the form simplifies even further.
Yeah.
So that's basically what this is all about. This is a one-time setup. You can make adjustments every now and then, but this isn't something that would change very often. You just simplify this as much as you can and customize it according to the needs of your station and your record-keeping requirements.
Yeah, and one advantage that you can use to your preferences, if you don't care as a station which songs were requested, you can use that field for something else. If it requires a checkbox, you can give it a custom name and use it for something else. If it's let's say one of our stations track
to make that
female vocalist.
Right, so let's say that you're one of these Canadian stations and they've got this Canadian content thing that their bureaucrats need to track, right? So you could change that and click save, and so we enable the field as well, and then we've got a checkbox in the form called Canadian content, right?
Yeah.
So that's the kind of trick that you can play with custom labels.
So you can repurpose some of these fields to your needs. And anyway, let's go back to our
back to the playlist.
Yep. So
Resume.
resume. This is also a neat feature. If you already started a playlist and I got distracted, you can easily go back resuming, and just an artist name. Let's pick one from our chart. Let's say La Luz. Luz. And this is their newest album. Doesn't matter which song. It brings up the cover art, and if you are happy with what the label is also in our database, if you do manual entry and click submit, you see the time cannot be blank. That's one of the things that Tom just changed in the list.
No, I didn't change that.
Well, not you can click now, and then it fills it out for you, and now you can submit.
Or you can type in a value.
Yeah.
And it's fairly flexible. You can do tricks like this, 1 minute ago, and things like that work. Oh, it says 1. I didn't type the 1. Sorry, it does actually work, honestly. Right? But I don't have a value here. So you can. We don't have all of the fields enabled. I just disabled them to try and show you. Don't have fields enabled that you don't need, but we could put a whole bunch of them back to make it more confusing looking and impressive, which is kind of the purpose of selling software, is to tell you that you need stuff that you don't really need, you know. And you notice that the form will actually fill things in for you. So it does this by this process of auto-completion that we talked about. So what's the one that I always like? Miles Davis has done a lot of albums. So let's say I don't want to type in the whole thing. Well, I have to scroll rather a lot. But maybe I type in another D and now I don't have to scroll quite so much, right? So that's how that works. That will always update. When you choose that, then it gives you a whole bunch of suggestions, up to 500 in each of these categories. So let's say the album I want to play was no. Yeah, the important one. Oh, never mind. Let's do it in a silent way. Right? So I type a little bit and I get that. So I had a couple of choices there. So you noticed I got in a silent way anything that fits what I just typed. So how about the complete session? So that's got all those all that extra stuff that they sell to music nerds to get some even more money out of them. And the one, it's about that time, new mix. Why not? Now I've done an awful lot of filling in the form. I've got an ISRC, I've got a record label, and all of these fields are in, but I only typed a little bit.
Yeah.
Right. But I can do that also. So I'll click submit here. Oh no, I can't. I can. So yeah, let's do that next. So sorry, I was a bit quick there. Let's go back. Look carefully in the top corner here, the cog icon. The cog icon is personal playlist preferences. So this is certain configurations that are that the DJ can make for themselves and that get saved as personal preferences. Timestamp automation. If you're doing a playlist, if you're entering a playlist while you do your radio show, you're probably going to want one of these two options. Clock tells, then in that case, the time field here is the time of day.
Yeah. It's a computer clock, basically.
And if I change that value, then it stops. But otherwise, it's just going to keep advancing. If I choose stop the clock when I start typing, then it's the same kind of thing, except if I start typing in another field, then it stops then. So if you're the kind of DJ that drops the needle and then starts filling in the form, then that would be your choice. Anyway, so I can, and then the other options are if you're doing the playlist before or after the show and the current time of day isn't related at all. Those are useful options there. So, you just try out what works best for you.
Of course, all of it goes down the drain if you use the audio recognition, which fills out the form for you pretty much real time. A few seconds delay can happen, usually within 10 seconds. And if you are following along your show and the audio recognition, if the audio recognition misses something, either filling it incorrectly or doesn't find anything. If it doesn't find anything, you will get a notice in Spintron that nothing found, and you can enter it manually as we showed or Tom demonstrated. And if it's an error, you think, then you can correct it immediately. So any of the audio recognition provided playlist can be just like a regular playlist edited after, before, or not before, right. But so, after the show.
Yeah. So if you are using the audio recognition, then when recognitions happen, they're actually just inserted directly into your playlist here. They'll just appear, and they'll appear pretty quickly as well.
Yeah.
And as Eva said, if the audio recognition system picks up something that it knows it doesn't know, then it will tell you when that happened relative to now.
Yeah.
But we've also got this would be the button to edit a spin. That's weird. Just gotta change it. Oh yeah, I've got some stuff in the field there. So I'll just refresh my page there like that. So that's the field that pulls up an item in your playlist for manual editing. So if the recognition picks up something that you want to modify, then you can use the pencil button just like you would any item that you'd put in yourself. And if you want to delete something, then we use that button. Are you sure you want to delete that? that last button is, a lot of people don't know this. This is a pro trick. If I were to be one of those people that doesn't like using menus, right? And I typed not Ada but Abba, and I typed the song Dancing Queen, and just press enter, right? So what I did was I ignored all those suggestions that were coming in those drop-down menus. But then Spintron says, well, you didn't choose something from the database, so I'm going to suggest something. And it goes off to external databases at that point and tries to choose something. So we can just click on something like gold is a perfectly good solution. So one click and that's done.
I call that feature the pester. That's the
Now-
last chance thing you can.
Pester or last chance or did you mean search.
Yeah.
But you can also run that same search after the fact by clicking the spyglass down here. That search thing is supposed to just initiate the same thing. Then it takes the information that you've already got in your playlist and runs it. You can do that on imported playlists too.
Yeah.
So that can be quite useful too.
Yeah, you can also do that on the audio recognition entries. The biggest disadvantage of audio for audio recognition is it often doesn't know which album you played the song from, because the song is identical, the composer and the artist is obviously identical, but they appear on multiple releases, and the audio recognition wouldn't really know which one you personally are playing from. So that's one way of correcting the erroneous entry.
That can be useful.
So any questions about our playlist entry, or shall we move on to some report generation?
I have a question
Sure.
about using this feature with recorded shows. I don't know exactly what time any given track is going to play on a program that I've submitted in advance.
Yeah. Yes, that is one of the reasons why during the pandemic quite a few stations started using the audio recognition, because if the DJ submits one piece of 2 hour long or 1 hour long MP3 file, you load it and the playback starts at the given time, it's not broken down into individual songs most of the time, and you don't have any metadata to extract from it. If you use the audio recognition, it can extract the metadata. It will go by the recognition and inserts the.
So that's one
song.
option.
Yeah, that's one option.
So but audio recognition has its own, pros and cons, and it also costs more.
Yeah.
So you can also prepare a show in advance in Spinitron and not assign timestamps to the spins until later, or you can assign incorrect or approximate timestamps and then correct them later. So, for example, if I've got these two spins here already and I want to change one of them, I just click on that and change the value, right? Press did you see? Shall I do it again? So I click on the timestamp and I change it to a different value. Press enter, and it's that easy to correct something. So you can have an incorrect timestamp, but also if you don't have a timestamp, I'll demonstrate how that works too. If you don't have a timestamp, so let's do the Abba again. Abba, and what's the other song? Waterloo, right? Waterloo. There we go. We'll just type it in like that. Great. So I don't know. I'm just going to press enter and see what happens. Good. That worked. Right. So we got it in there, but all right. That didn't work exactly as I planned, but we do now. I'll do that over again without timestamp, and we're going to do Abba and Waterloo again. Oh, it's not requiring. So in order, Q, right? Press the Q button instead. No, it's still requiring a time. Playlist forms, I uncheck that checkbox. That means I don't require a timestamp field on playlist entry. And then I resume. And we'll do this one more time. Sorry for my shoddy skills here.
Delete.
We'll get rid of that and press Q button. Right, so there you see what it looks like when a spin doesn't have a time assigned to it. Now this is according to, assuming that certain conditions are met that I kind of just inadvertently demonstrated, we can set that by typing in a value, or I can press the now button, which sets it to the current time. So if somebody prepares a playlist in Spinitron in advance, then their spins can be there. They can even be in the wrong order, and you can just drag them into a new order. Or you can set the order by setting the timestamp. You just don't really worry about the order, because the order will sort itself out once the spins are in the past.
That is assuming the DJ who has the show knows the song information.
Yes, so if the playlist is entered in advance, so this used to be a very, very common way of doing things, that people would sort of like sit down with their iTunes thing and put together a playlist. That's what I want to play. That goes into Spinitron. And oftentimes that's even imported into Spinitron. We've got the import for you. Without running through too much of this here, you can even copy paste from a program like iTunes or even Spotify. You can copy paste into this text field and
Or on an
successfully
Excel
import.
sheet. If you
Excel, of course, yeah. Or and you can upload files as well. It doesn't only work with copy paste.
Yeah.
But it's quite common that people have got all the details, including the full metadata, like the record label and whatnot, of the songs they're going to play in advance, but they don't know exactly when they're going to start playing them. And so this is what this kind of feature is.
Does it answer your question?
It does. Just to ask about that pasting and importing, would that accept CSV?
Yes.
Yes.
So as long as I know what fields my station will require, and I set up a CSV text that meets that, I can just paste that into that big field.
Yes.
Yes, you can.
And
That's
then
wonderful.
you can align your columns, or, whatever is the artist name, with Spinitron artist. So you can move columns and column headers around and make sure that they match. And the Spinitron will remember for the next time you import a playlist, so you don't have to make that much assignments for next time if you want.
So the other part about that is that if you're preparing a CSV in some other system, you should at least consider it might be easier to do it in Spinitron, because we've got all this autocomplete going on.
Well, it depends what program they use,
Exactly.
and downloading it from Spotify or
Exactly.
from iTunes.
It might be easier to prepare your stuff using our autocomplete database.
Yeah.
But it depends what you're dealing with.
Yeah. And also from iTunes, if you have the right artist, song, whatever information you have in iTunes, you can copy the song listings in iTunes and just drag it over to that import field in Spinitron. So you don't even have to download and upload. Anything else about playlist?
More questions?
Oh, one more thing that I wanted to show here is it is actually quite popular with DJs. You can export your playlist as soon as you have anything to export. So you can send it to your favorite promoters or artists you are playing, and
we have a number of formats that you can export the data in, and we have a number of ways of getting that formatted data out.
Can you
by
move it to an email?
Yeah. So you can send an email from Spinitron that's got the playlist data in it. You can send it, for example, as an HTML text, or as computer stuff. So there are a bunch of options there, and you can choose
you can
which
have
columns,
a list here
you're interested
separated by commas. You can have you can also copy and paste your entire distribution list to labels and promoters and artists if you want to share your playlist with them.
Yeah, you it will save these values for next time. So if you have like 10 people that you always send it to, you can keep them in here. I mean, we don't promise to not lose that.
Okay, so that's quickly about the playlist entry form, and I want to show you there are two ways of generating reports. One is related to sound exchange. This is okay, let me go back to the station setting for 1 second. There, most stations will report either directly to Sound Exchange or to NPR digital services. And in the admin settings and station settings, you can decide, you can check which one you are reporting. So if you report directly to NPR, then is I would like to know about it, because we have to set some settings on our end to make sure that you have the most convenient way of reporting. If you are reporting to Sound Exchange, all we need is fill out this form and save changes, and then you don't have to worry about this setup later. Currently, let's see, we have this NPR reporting, and go to Sound Exchange. The actual report generation will look very similar from the station's point of view. You will need to decide the reporting period. Most stations will choose 2 consecutive weeks, and we need you to enter the end date. I just want to make sure that we have some data in Spintron.
If you want me to choose a period, I can do that.
Preview report. Okay, there was nothing in
our we don't actually run a radio station here, so this station called Test here has got some data in it, but it's not always updating. So we need to sort of like fudge it for you. I think if we go to like April of this year and do like 1 week from there. No, I'm sorry, I screwed that up too. I thought I knew this.
Go to
Eva knows.
Yes. That's one way of checking. Browse playlist. So you can check. We can go back
September 7th. I've got some stuff in there.
Okay, September 7th. We can do a reporting on that. September 7th. Okay. And
nothing there either.
Anyway,
it's one of those problems with trying to demonstrate this data. Why don't I just choose a different station? You know, I can demonstrate it from one of your stations. Hold up your hand if you're a Spintron user.
Well, before
Right. And what's your station ID?
WXOX.
All right.
Do you mind? Do you mind?
Oh, go for it. I was just going to say we have a hand raised from Ted Coe of KCSB.
Just a quick comment. One feature I really like in the playlisting is the ability to put notes for each entry, which just sort of makes it more like a blog than just a list. Because you can add comments about why you picked the song or how it fits into a larger kind of focus or something like that.
That's right. The song note field is a rich text field that you can put formatted text into, including images and even embeds from YouTube and SoundCloud and things like that. So you can put a real story into the song note field if you want to. Yeah, it's quite neat. So let's see what you've been playing for the last 1 week, and in your station's case, we're just going to. It's not going to mean anything. So that's how a Sound Exchange report looks once it's been prepared in this way, and the way you're not allowed, since Spintron is not the actual service. We're not sending the email or the report or uploading the report to Sound Exchange for you. You still have to do it yourself. It's kind of a pain in the neck, but. So you can get the report, you can download it with like this, create your file, and there's your file. So you can download it, you can open it right here, or you can copy the URL to the file. You've got a few options. But basically, all you have to do, once everything's set up, all you have to do is type in the end date. And if you're using, if you're reporting directly to Sound Exchange, then you have to set up this ATH field, you'll get that from your webcast service provider, who tells you the audience size for your reporting period.
Yeah. Speaking of which, I would like to point out David Clan in the crowd that we've been coordinating some efforts with him. That stations who don't have FM signals, they only have webcast. They are required to do ATP instead of ATH. ATH stands for aggregate tuning hours, and just one number for sound exchange is enough. ATP is actual total performances
Of each
song.
that you play,
So
right.
it's much more difficult to compute. And if you are using Spintron and David's streaming services, then as of today,
No, as of soon.
as of soon, but we just got the news today that it's in the trajectory. You should be able to combine the two, the playlist reports from Spinitron with David's streaming services. We will be able to mash together the required data and provide the required ATP for streaming service.
Actually, it goes
Am I
even.
right, David?
That's basically correct, but it even goes beyond that, because even if you are a simulcaster and you have an FM or an AM broadcast, this is going to be a tremendous convenience, because it means you don't have to go and figure out what the audience size was from your webcaster and then sort of transfer that data either into Spinitron or into the Sound Exchange reporting system, their web app for reporting. Will be able to actually incorporate that data into your report. If you are doing your webcasting through David, then we'll be able to suck the data about the usage from David into from David's machines into Spinitron and compute the audience size on that basis without you having to actually worry about it at all.
Yeah, it just most often it came up with online only stations, because simulcasters are allowed to do ATH.
The majority of them are, yes.
Yeah.
The ones that we deal with mostly can do this aggregate audience size. But it's actually better, even if you don't need to do this. Even if you don't need to do this, it's better for the artists if we can provide this kind of detailed data, because that then allocates the royalty payments precisely, as opposed to the kind of guesswork, the really
Sound
kind
Exchange
of nonsense
prefers
guesswork
that,
that goes on when you're just using this aggregate audience size measurement.
Yeah. So that's our
That's coming up soon.
yeah, that's our good news for today that it's coming up soon, right? So this is the report for if you're doing NPR reporting. The form looks very similar. I don't think I need to go through it separately. If you need a tutorial on that, I'm more than happy to walk you through. We provide we
What do you want to talk about
we
next?
accommodate both reporting methods. And can I use Sharon, your station for
Oh, yeah.
charting?
Don't even ask.
Please
Okay.
do. Yeah.
Hey,
No.
hey.
I want to make the window wider.
That's
so
what
we
I
can see the
wanted
rest
to.
of it. Yeah. I'm doing first. There you go.
Okay, so this is the other report generation, the search and chart, and by default it brings up all the spins for a week, so you can scroll through, and it lists the show name, the DJ name, and all the fields that could be of interest. You can narrow your search, so you can first of all you can set it to spins, artists, releases, or labels. You can define your time period, and you can incorporate other filters too. Most commonly used the genre for example, what was played in the rock genre, and for the last week, and you can chart it. So
This is a song chart, not an
Yeah.
album chart.
yeah, let's try it with the release. The release is the album in Spintron's terminology. So you have all the albums listed here for the last week that are in the rock category, and then you chart it and you have the result, and you can email it to whoever you want to email it, and
Select the button.
and
So this is very similar to exporting a playlist. It's the same sort of general form and procedure. It's actually the same software in Spintron that does the same thing. So you can so if you go through the trouble of producing a chart every week, then you can send it off to whoever you want to
Yeah.
impress with what
Yeah.
you were playing on the radio this week.
And the other good function of this is, let's say, set it to days, because most stations would need to report on 3 days, ending I don't know, October 5th, and
Press search.
press search, and bingo, you have your BMI reporting.
And yeah, so
That's it.
we can,
You
and you can
don't have to chart it. You just get what fields you want to include. I don't think they need the name of the DJ and
you don't need the
the
playlist title.
genre. It's just but if you have the composer enabled, that helps BMI checking down who they have to hit. Yeah. So. And you can again email it or choose another format and delivery method that you want.
This is Ron. I have a question.
Sure.
Can all this be accomplished with audio recognition?
Yes.
Yes.
So audio recognition is just another way of getting data into playlists, right? So if we go back to our playlist here, you can think of that playlist as being like a document. If you're using Microsoft Word or Excel, you think of that as a document, right? And the audio recognition is just a different way of inserting things into this document.
Yeah.
So you can type into this document, or if you've got recognition going, it's going to just write into your document for you automatically.
Yeah.
And once those documents are there, then all of these features for reporting work the same.
Yep.
Okay, so you don't have to type, you wouldn't have to type anything into any playlist. It would populate it for you.
Yeah.
Right. To the extent that to the extent that the music recognition is successful for the programming you've got,
Right,
there are some caveats there. The music you play might not be in the fingerprint database. It's a
Right.
very big database, but there's music that isn't commercially available and therefore hasn't been fingerprinted. Right?
So we pay to Sound Exchange, certainly. SECAC, BMI, and ASCAP. Does this reporting support all of those
Yeah.
vendors?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we went over the Sound Exchange stuff in some detail, but the others can all be done as far as we understand it. We don't actually run a radio station and report to them ourselves, but as we understand it from our users, the other service providers are supported by doing a report with the search and chart feature. So you choose your date range. So it's 1 week ending whenever, press the search button, and then you click on the export here, choose the fields that they want in the report, which doesn't include playlist information. You don't need to know the DJ. Maybe they do want to know the date and time of the spin.
Yeah, they do.
Sound Exchange actually doesn't, but maybe
No,
the others
but
do.
BMI does.
Artist, song title, composer, and maybe they want the release title. That depends. They probably want the ISRC if you've got it, and if you're using some of our technologies like autocomplete and the
Audio
Pester,
recognition, yeah.
the last chance, the did you mean search, that can figure out the ISRC for you, and the recognition. So and the UPC can be good. It depends what they're asking for. Right?
Yeah.
As I said, we don't run a radio station, so we don't routinely do this.
Well,
so you then click and then you can send an email to yourself, or maybe we just we look at this as a CSV file that we're going to copy and paste, right? So we can just display that and then copy and paste it from here.
Actually, we had a conversation. I had a conversation years ago with BMI, and they really loved how stations could submit their report using Spintron. And occasionally, I got an email from the BMI rep if the station was absolutely and completely unresponsive to submit their report, and we submitted it on their behalf.
And once you calculate
they
the
were absolutely happy with the structure.
once you integrate the number of online listeners in this product, and then you run your reports, will it actually calculate the cost?
No. So that's the online listeners is only relevant for Sound Exchange. So
Right.
it just the other they're the only reporting institution that really cares about the size of the audience.
I see.
The other ones for college and community radio stations, they basically make a put your finger in the air and make a swag as to how big an audience you have, and then you pay on that basis. If you're in an educational institution, that's usually a blanket license for the entire college. Or if you're an independent community station, then it's a small, they'll have a way of negotiating that with you, and that's basically they're going to use that as an audience size measurement. So for the time being, as we understand it, the only institution that will accept explicit audience size measurement for each song is Sound Exchange.
Okay,
And you
but
can only
my
do
point,
that if you're reporting directly to Sound Exchange. NPR doesn't accept that data.
yes, I understand. So I guess still my question, let's just take Sound Exchange. So you integrate the amount of listeners, you have the total amount, the total spins. Does the billing get calculated by your application, or how is that
No.
established?
Well, yes and no. As far as I understand it, for all of the stations that we deal with that report directly to Sound Exchange, all of them are minimum fee webcasters. So that means that their audience size is small enough that it doesn't that they're covered under the minimum fee. So that covers them up to a certain audience size measurement, which is 216 average listeners across a month, every month of the year, right? Or something. The detail is kind of complicated and stupid, but but basically all the stations we've ever dealt with are either reporting through NPR, in which case it's NPR's problem to figure out the audience size. We're not involved. Or they're reporting directly to Sound Exchange, in which case they're a minimum fee broadcaster. We haven't run into the situation yet where people have to add the excess fees on top of the minimum. But when it comes to that, there is a dollar price, so like a couple of cents or thereabouts at the moment per performance in excess of the minimum fee. And we can go and figure that out, but we haven't had to deal with that yet. We're in a position to do it when it comes to that. But you would have to have your webcasting costs would be quite high at that point. That's where you're dealing with over 200 listeners simultaneously all the time, all year.
Right. So
Average.
if you want to calculate the, we give you a good start in our forum. If you go to the Sound Exchange reporting overview, there's a
218.
it's we give you the formula for it.
That's at present, and we're not the
Yeah.
authority on this. It's actually changing year by year.
Currently, it is that's our current thing, and for
Okay.
next year it will be the same. But
Thank
you
you.
can take a look. It will take, I mean, the Sound Exchange reporting overview will take you to statutory, educational, and public radio details as well, if you want to get it a little bit clearer, what requirements you have.
So actually, this page shows the excess fee. I was off by a factor of 10. It's a fifth 0.2 of a cent per excess fee, per excess performance, on top of this minimum fee allowance that you get. You can't pay less than $500 a month, or 550 or 600, or whichever.
To be
year
quite
it is.
honest, the non-commercial stations that would be in that category to have to pay access fee most likely would report direct to NPR or via NPR. In that case, CPB covers their entire fee.
Yeah.
So we haven't come across any stations yet.
It can happen. It can happen, of course, but you've got a bigger than average audience for a non-commercial radio station like us.
Yeah, it's a pretty good, a pretty high number. Most of the stations deal with 2-digit as opposed to 218 average.
digits,
Yeah. So.
Okay,
but
thank you.
If you run
Does
into
that
that
answer the
if you run into that problem that you need to calculate the excess fee, I'm more than happy to help you. Just let me know.
Yeah, we'll be able to
please
figure it out.
come to me. I will calculate it for you at any time. I wish you the best luck to
Yes.
to achieve that number, and I will celebrate it.
More listeners, the better.
Yeah. That's the point of having a radio station, to have listeners. But does it answer your question?
Yes, it did. Thank you so much.
Good. Okay, so lastly, we wanted to point out this is the one of the newest features that we introduced a few years ago, the audio recognition that we talked about a lot, and the next one is since Radio Free America pulled the plug last year. I know a lot of stations who use Spintron also use the Radio Free America. We felt compelled to kind of step in and come up with some help for stations as cheap as possible. And we introduced an archive feature that archives your programming to the limit of 2 weeks. And that's unfortunate limitation that you can't keep it longer, but that is what it is, and it has to be non-interactive. So we get some disappointed emails from listeners that, where's the scroll button? You can't.
Seek back and
Yeah,
forth.
seek back and forth,
Yeah.
and so the best that we could come up with was the 15-minute increment of finding what you want to listen to. So
So you guys using the
go to admin, public page.
That's the one I wanted. Yes, thank you. Big fat not found. That's cool. It's not an excellent choice. Right, WZBC. Let's go there, because that's where it all started. I was a DJ here. So we got this archive player where you can choose the date and time that you want to play back, and press the play button and listen to the archive from there. And as I said, there's a big drawback here that you can't scroll backwards and forwards. There isn't a seek slider. And that's deliberate because that would be highly interactive, and therefore not legit under your statutory license for webcasting. But you can pause it and play back again, which is actually rather more interactive than I think was ever intended, but this is the kind of compromise we're trying to meet. The problem right now is that this player won't continue playing on a mobile device. So on your phone or on your iPad or whatever, this player won't continue playing indefinitely when you close the screen or you switch to a different app or you look at a different tab in your browser. that is something that I don't have a demo for right now, or do I? Maybe I could possibly.
No,
It's
don't
not
worry,
really
just
important.
it
But
come.
anyway, we're experimenting at the moment with a new streaming server, which has a different streaming technology altogether that overcomes this problem. It's tested; it definitely works. It's just not quite ready for everybody to use. So that's coming up. It's not going to be an additional cost, but it will overcome this issue that you could then navigate to WZBC or whatever station it is, start the archive player, and then go and play around on Facebook or Instagram or whatever it is you like, or just turn your screen off and the music will continue to play. Or not the music, the
Yeah.
radio will continue to play.
Put it in your pocket, walk the dogs,
Right.
and listen to your favorites.
Which is
Yeah.
a more normal way of listening to radio
Yeah,
or
yeah.
podcast or music on a phone, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I would say that's
Yeah,
the one,
that's
the one thing that we want that, to keep playing when we set the phone
Yeah,
down.
I mean, we were when Radio Free America went under, I felt bad because we'd actually kind of encouraged stations to go and check them out because that doesn't cost any money,
Yeah.
it's free and it works, what more can you ask? And when they went away, I quickly put something together, but we had this issue that it doesn't continue playing for more than 5 minutes on a phone.
Yeah.
So
Unless you have the screen on and you set
unless you keep the
yeah.
screen turned on and you don't look at anything else, because the browser tab has to be in the foreground or the JavaScript stops running.
Yeah.
Right? That's the limitation. But the new technology we've got uses a different streaming technology that doesn't involve JavaScript, so or at least not to keep it playing, and so that works. It does work. It's not kind of ready for everybody yet. It's coming. It won't cost extra. It's something we'll do for you.
I'd like to ask a question about a different feature, if I could.
Sure.
First, Tom, you're an incredible programmer.
Thank you.
I'm assuming that there's MySQL running somewhere in the background.
Yes, actually, we switched years ago to MariaDB.
Maria.
Just a branch of the same thing, right?
My question is actually about the only part of Spintron I've been frustrated with. Up to now, I've only been exposed to the web exported portion of it, and hopefully soon I'll be actually getting an account on the system and entering playlists. But the part that I've been frustrated with is the output schedule. Our station displays your tabular schedule of the programs, and it's really excellent for a website. However, it's just driven me nuts trying to print that schedule, which we have had to do on some occasions. We do a number of outdoor events and tabling, and the first thing people ask when they come approach us is, do you have a schedule of programs?
Right.
We want to be able to print them something right off of this, and I'm just wondering if there's been any change there, if you've made it easier in any way.
No, not really. I'm sorry. Ted, it looks like you're leaving, so I just want to say goodnight. But apart from that, not really, no. It is the calendar software that we use. The JavaScript part of it is an open source project. Can't remember the name right now. But it's really tremendous as far as it goes. But yeah, we don't have a sort of a way to prepare a document for printing. Honestly, your best bet would be, can you take a screen grab can you produce a picture on a web browser that looks good enough to print, and then just screen grab that and maybe edit it a bit in some program, I don't know, or just not even that, and just print that. That would be what I would try to do, because getting the data into a format that's going to allow you to produce a sort of you want a grid layout, right?
Yeah.
Yes. I wonder if you had considered outputting the data to some simple HTML document that could be, sort of sparsely formatted, but something we could print from that.
Yes and no. I mean, it's the sort of thing that you consider, and then like it's so extremely difficult, and so one of those things that's so specialized to the particular need of the person that's asking for it that you wonder, like, I'm not sure I can invest in all of that.
It's
So,
also
so
a
yes,
little bit
so
difficult.
yes, thought about it to the point that it's. I mean, the thing is, if you look at a Spintron schedule, like, so here we go, right? That's not even. So what do we want to print out here? Do we want to print out Sunday past or Sunday next week? Different stations have got different needs here. Some stations don't have a weekly schedule. In fact, many stations don't have a simple weekly repeating schedule. So what's on next week is not the same thing that's on the week after.
Mm-hmm. But they also standardize it for printing will also be difficult because some stations have segments that they break down to 5 minutes, 5 minutes increment. Other stations have 2-hour increments. So the size would differ tremendously, and it would just make it a little bit tricky to.
Yeah, so that's why I kind of hate to give you the answer I did, which is like, is there a way that you can use this and just make a screen grab of it? There is actually a way to make a screen grab of an entire page, including the scrolling, at least with, maybe not with that click, I don't know which button it is. There's a button somewhere in Firefox that allows you to do a screen grab of a whole page, even if even the parts that you have to scroll down to.
I didn't know that. I will have to look into that. Well, I will certainly give you credit for something else with this schedule, which is that when the screen size is reduced, you do flip to a mobile type of format, which I've noticed, and that's very impressive.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, so we do this for small screens, right?
Yeah. So the other thing that I don't know if we have time for it, but I wanted
I
to.
love the colors here. These are excellent choices. I don't know who did that. It's good job, whoever it was at WXOX.
They have artistic departments. You remember their logo, the sticky logo.
Okay, we're all looking blank, Eva, so
Okay.
just move on.
All right. So for web integration, I wanted to point out that we also have a lot of information
Yes, and we
on our
have.
forum and in the guides, I think, is web integration.
We should just point out that we have a forum as well.
Yeah.
Maybe not everybody's quite aware of this.
Yeah.
This is where you can go to ask any support questions you like. Generally speaking, Eva and I both will notice any questions that are asked on this forum, and we'll try to answer if it seems appropriate for us to answer. Sometimes it has happened that even somebody from another station has answered a question before either of us have gotten to it. But it's nice because this is a way that you can have a conversation in public that might be useful for other people too.
Yeah. But that's about web integration. It's a pretty comprehensive starting guide. But if you don't find a method that you want to implement, feel free
There's
to ask.
this. I don't know if I ever got around to incorporating the other web integration technique called the custom layout, which is so if we go to testradio.org, this is a nonsense imaginary radio station's homepage. It looks kind of garbage, but it demonstrates the principle. This is not spinatron.com, all right? It's somebody else's webpage. And if I click here on programs, that takes us to the schedule on Spinatron. That's actually a Spinatron page. That's being served from spinatron.com. It looks different because we've given it a a kind of slightly sneaky looking, what's the word for that, domain name, right? So we've got a virtual host on spinitron.com for that. And we got this extra bit here that says layout equals 1, which is a way of switching from the normal Spinitron page layout to whatever you've put into Spinitron. If I turn that to 0, then I get the same page, but it's the more familiar, plain vanilla kind of, what do we call that, white label version. But I can turn that back, then it's the same page layout that this station Barton, PA. Apparently, there are a lot of states in the country that have got a Barton in them, but Pennsylvania is not one of them. We've also got a hamburger menu here. This radio station has set up some URLs, some links rather, in this hamburger menu, where we can go and look at individual show pages, and they're formatted in the way, and that again is a Spinitron page. If I switch that back, it might look a bit more familiar, right? But it's just different styling and a page layout. So these are some of the tricks that you can do, and that's actually a fairly, once you've done this, all the public pages in Spinitron that are available on spinitron.com can look like yours, and can even have a domain name looks like it's yours as well.
Yeah. So your listeners or page visitors wouldn't need to know about Spinitron at all. It's all white label, so there's no branding required, and you can have it match exactly the style you have on your website.
What's even nice,
and you can navigate.
That's right. The navigation backwards and forth. So if you're using the JavaScript widgets or the iframe widgets, both of them come with certain limitations as far as the navigation from your website to Spinitron, and then from Spinitron's pages back to yours. So if you're on spinitron.com without the layout, right? So we get rid of that, and then it doesn't work. All right, never mind. I can't necessarily do this demo, but here's a widget that's on their website, and we got links here within these widgets, and even those can work to take us to Spinitron pages, and then we can navigate back to them through the page layout. Right? So it's a nice it solves this problem of the navigation back and forth between content produced by Spinitron and content that's normally on your own website. All right, but if you're not a web developer, then that's probably a bit boring for you.
So for any further details on that part or web integration, he is the guy to talk to. Otherwise, I can try to answer anybody's questions, whatever comes up. If it's too technical, I just pass you on to Tom. But
so just one simple example. They didn't go all in on this, but they did do it. If I click on the programming and schedule here, right, that's that. You see the idea, right?
And the Spinitron, I don't know if everybody can see on the screen that the Spinitron.com doesn't show up anywhere in the URL. So it looks like it's produced and maintained by the station.
And if I click on one of these, I'm navigating from one Spinitron page to another. So there's the actual playlist, and I don't know what else can I click on. I don't have a width here. That's weird. All right. Maybe this like history talks in here. Yeah, so there I've got previous playlist, and I can look at this DJ and look at a previous playlist from this DJ. And so I'm navigating inside all these Spinitron pages, but I've still got all this stuff to go back to.
And that's not an error, just Tom has all kinds of
I have all my
privacy.
Security and privacy. I've broken the web because the web is so privacy invading. And then I can just click back here, and but all of those menus that were there still work also on the Spintron pages. Like I can navigate back through other ways, like to the underwriting page like that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It just works.
Any more questions?
Wow, that's amazing. I didn't know that. I'm gonna have to talk to you more about that, Tom. That's cool.
Yeah, it's cool. It's
Sure thing. You've got to kind of wrap your head around it, but
Yeah.
once you do, if you know a bit of web development stuff, you know, the HTML stuff,
Yeah.
then so like you wrap your head around it, and then suddenly it twigs, and then oh yeah, and then
Okay.
it solves the problem. It's definitely a little bit confusing at first.
Okay,
And
yeah, I'll
as I
read
said,
that.
Tom will be happy to give more details on how to set it up,
Great,
how to go about it.
thank you. Well, really fabulous presentation. Thank you so much for going over all that. We'll leave it open for questions. Sometimes it takes a minute, you know, for folks to formulate the questions they have.
Yes. So let's all be quiet for everybody else for a moment, or maybe you just want
Their
to.
own.
Moment of silence, right?
But thank you all so much. It's we know that you're always there. That's to me, one of the great things about Spintron is that we know we can always reach out and get you. Every time I've lifted the phone to call, Ava's answering, and she's right there to help with all of our questions. So that's really great.
Yeah, we don't have an automatic press this number. It's that's all I have, and I answer every time I hear ringing. And
So far, that approach has been working quite well.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
We'll stick with it as long as we can.
I like interacting with people, so it's helping and whatever questions you have.
Great.
Cara,
Right.
did you raise your hand?
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, I did. I don't have a question, but I realized how the audio recognition works is kind of neat because I oftentimes have two songs playing at once. I mix electronic music. And before I would have to kind of guess maybe where I mixed that in, or I would just use the duration to kind of, you know, just list the song. But now it picks up, you know, when that next song comes in.
That's pretty cool.
Immediately.
Because honestly, that's something that I don't have experience with. So you know, how well it works with different pieces of music mixed together was a
Interesting.
mystery to me.
Yeah.
But it does succeed in a reasonable way, does it?
Yes.
It's good to know.
Great.
The
It
only
recognizes the music. It, you know, it just picks it right up.
That's cool.
Great stuff.
It's good to know. Thanks for the feedback for that. Speaking of which, the only time we are aware that the audio recognition is having trouble is if you use pitch shift in your recording.
Yeah.
So we just discovered one of the stations had two CD players, and one of them was calibrated in a different pitch than the other, and one was picked up by the audio recognition, and CDs
Yeah,
played
wasn't.
from the other one. None of them were picked up.
Yeah.
So
So
it's-
that is actually if you're involved with that, that's a tricky business, because that can happen also with turntables. Of course, many turntables, even good quality ones, are off a bit in terms of their speed. And also, if you're preparing a radio show in advance, you know, in other words, you produce it in advance and then upload it for playout, which has become quite common during the COVID years, right? Then sometimes a DJ or the station will adjust the overall length of the file so that it just fits right, just by doing like a 0.5% pitch shift or something. Over the whole thing, and that can throw it off too. That'll throw off the entire show.
Yeah. So if you run into these programs, so
Pay attention.
that's the
We
kind of sticker I was talking about.
Oh, there we go. WXOX. Yeah. Hey.
Yeah. Hi, Shelby.
You got the right
So,
background,
yeah,
Shelby.
yeah.
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 Selby.
Hey,
That's your background. That's
hey, I pitch shift all the time when I'm DJing, and
And
I mean, I'll be using a computer, CD players, the turntables. At some point, you know, I try to let it be the correct pitch, that kind of thing. And I'm utilizing the, you know, recognition, and it usually will work. It'll usually pick it up as long as I let it be the correct pitch for a certain amount of time.
and
And
you bring it back to the right pitch for long
Right.
enough.
right. Yeah, it does a good enough job that I usually stick with whatever it says.
I
Glad
was
to hear.
Yeah,
saying
cool.
that even if you change it slightly, maybe if you move it back, it definitely will pick it right up. But yeah, that
It's it's a nifty technology. I'm glad we were able to
And I'm pleased to hear that people know better how it works than I do, from experimenting.
yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah, I like it a lot because it's a lot because otherwise I would just be
Yeah, I
typing
mean,
it in as
when
I'm
when
going.
when we
I don't really
introduced
like to pay attention to
Spinatron,
that.
when we introduced Spinatron at WZBC, when I went to the management and said, do you want to let the other DJs try this out? I don't know, well over 90% of the DJs went for it immediately. They were happy to type the stuff in instead of write it down on a piece of paper. But
Right.
That
I,
time has
but I
gone.
did,
Yeah.
I did understand, and I didn't argue with the DJs that don't want to be working the computer while they're doing the show. They never wrote it down on a piece of paper either.
Oh, right. Yeah.
That's not my groove, man, and that's fine,
Yeah.
But so if the recognition can pick that up and sort of like fill in those little gaps, that's another advantage.
Definitely.
I think it's great just because to me it was always so difficult to type things in while I was doing my show and try to, because I'm really like one of those DJs on the fly. I'm trying to find my next song as the song's playing, and if I'm
Yeah,
busy
but
typing things in, it
that's
throws
like
me
being a
off.
jazz improviser, isn't it? It's like you're up there in front
Yeah.
of the audience, you've got your saxophone ready, now you have to figure something out.
Yeah.
That's why you go there, because it's so exciting,
Yeah.
right?
Definitely. That's
And
right.
it wouldn't be fun if it wasn't for all that pressure that's on you, and you have to do it right now.
No
And,
doubt.
there's no delaying. But yes, it does. Working the computer does add to it, and if don't minimize the idea of having an assistant to help you, right?
No doubt.
Somebody there in the booth, or not necessarily even there, could be somebody at home that's helping you out, and especially for people who have difficulties with the computer, maybe vision or type, whatever. That's always a good recourse. It's
Yeah.
like, get an assistant.
Yep.
There, you've got fans in the audience, don't you?
Yeah.
Doesn't do any harm to ask.
Yeah,
That'd be
I mean,
great.
it works similarly to automation systems because we also integrate with about, I don't know, a couple of dozen or at least 16 automation systems. The only disadvantage of automation system that we know is most of the time they don't include the label, which is a crucial piece of information for sound exchange. So the audio recognition does get around that.
They also don't have cover art usually.
Well, that's a kind of more static
Yes,
thing,
but for the audience, it matters.
for the audience, yes. But I mean, there are a lot of stations that are really seriously concerned about sound exchange, and if they don't have the label information, that's
Yeah, so it's valid at least to say that some stations that have before we got the recognition working, they had their their Zeta or their Rivendell or whatever it is hooked up to Spinatron to send the data, and they've turned that off because they can just accomplish the same thing with the recognition, and they can accomplish other things as well, like offloading the work from live DJs.
Yeah, it's also interesting to see how stations respond to that feature. We had at least one station that only used the Spinitron for sound exchange reporting. I could see their playlist
They used it for
entries.
2 weeks every quarter.
Yeah,
Right, that's
and
it.
That's it. They didn't want to bother DJs, and no, we have a different culture. And at one point, the program director gave the, and they didn't even go public with it. I mean, they just kept Spinitron as an internal kind of sound exchange logging system. And they tried out the audio recognition, and they did a fantastic job after that with web integration. They overhauled their website in order to integrate Spinitron, and every spin is on that, and they love it. And
Yeah, I
all-
mean,
and
nobody
they
wants
just
to just
opened up.
yeah, nobody wants to
Yeah.
just report to Sound Exchange. If you buy Spinitron just for Sound Exchange, then nobody's really happy, right?
Yeah.
We're not that happy. You're not that happy because it's all, oh, you're only using Spinitron for, to deal with the man.
Yeah.
And but yeah, the recognition thing can
Yeah.
sort of
They
help
called
them.
us sometimes, some stations, that, oh, the Spinitron reporting is starting for this quarter, and it's like, oh God, no,
Don't like to hear that.
don't,
Because
we are not.
It's all about the web as far as we're concerned.
Yeah, yeah. Don't
That's
don't
not all.
consider us the man for reporting. We just give you the tools, but
But
Yeah.
it's true. Some stations and some DJs did have that attitude. It's
Yeah.
like Spinitron's just for bureaucratic nonsense.
well, we are here for the stations and the DJs mostly. So
Well,
And
we,
the listeners.
yeah.
yeah. I mean, listener, you represent the listeners. We just provide you the best that we can to support your listeners.
Yeah.
They love the web integration and knowing what song is playing at the moment. We've gotten so many compliments about that since we had
Great.
that.
Cool.
Dear.
It's really good. Well, we're at over an hour and a half now, so I know I know it's been wonderful. So time flies when you're having fun, but I don't want to. I can tell we've lost a couple folks just because it's getting late, and everybody's probably had a long day. We're all working hard overtime these days. But this has been a wonderful presentation, and I would encourage everyone to reach out to Eva and Tom if they have any further questions. Spinitron.com. I know they have lots of opportunities for you to take things for a spin if you're not,
Yeah, we offer a
Yeah.
free trial. So
Yeah, and also don't forget that forum. I mean, it's nice if you've got a question that might be relevant to other people. Ask it there. We'll see it just the same as if you had asked it by email or telephoned us.
yeah. But
And we will-
I saw that you shared our flyer with the invitation, so my contact information is there with my email and phone number. Please feel free to reach out
Yep.
pretty much anytime. Don't call me at 3 o'clock in the morning, but otherwise I'm happy to answer anytime.
Probably won't unless the thing's just broken.
Yeah.
Great. And
Thanks very much for paying attention to us and being
Thank
here.
you.
It's great.
yeah,
Thank you. Thanks for
Thank
the
you, Eva.
opportunity of sharing our whatever we could share with you. Hopefully useful.
I
And
think
thanks
it
for
was
your
Definitely.
feedback.
Absolutely, it was.
For various things.
And we'll be posting this. Many people have asked, they weren't able to make it tonight and they wanted to know if we were recording, which we did, and we'll post it on the Virtual GRC YouTube channel. So that's YouTube/Virtual GRC. And then just to remind everyone, GRC actually doesn't exist at all. We were just a conglomerate of people who come together every once in a while. Now we're coming together once a month while we live in this virtual world on the 10th of the month, or the closest to. Next month, the 10th is on a Friday, so we'll meet on a Thursday, which is the 9th, December 9th. Mark your calendars. And I think that'll be more of a social exchange type thing, and just kind of all of us wrapping our heads around this crazy year that we've had and planning for hopefully a great year in the future where we can all meet together in person again. So if any stations out there are interested in hosting an in-person conference anytime in the near future, please let us know and we can start planning that. So, hoping to see the end of this pandemic, just always hoping, but we will get there. And we need to go ahead and plan for that. So,
Might as well.
Yeah.
and then just to say one more time, we just want to say that since Spinitron is a paid service, we don't endorse any paid services. There's lots of great options out there, including the Pacifica Confessor program, which has similar but different features. So we had a presentation about that last month. That's already posted at the Virtual GRC site. So you're welcome to check that out and compare your options. Both Pacifica and Spinitron have been great supporters of the community radio movement, and all of them just very involved with what we're doing. And it's great to hear you guys are collaborating, David and Spinitron. So that's
Yeah.
cool. So anyway, just want to thank you all again. Thank you all, everyone who joined us here tonight. Keep doing the great things you're doing. Stay safe, and hope to see you next month on December 9th. Again, thank you, Eva and Tom.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Good night.
Good night.
Everyone.
Night, everyone.
Thanks. Stay safe. Bye-bye.
Good to see you. Bye-bye.
Good to see you. Bye bye.